Hello, everyone. So, last week, in our quest to return to the basics and to root and to reboot into our spiritual principles and teachings, we got clear ish on oneness and this idea of God. What do we mean when we use the word God, source, spirit, universal truth, whatever your word is? So this week we're going to take it one step further and we're going to talk about what does that mean? If we believe in oneness, if we believe that God is all there is, then what does that actually mean? What does that imply? Why does having that belief matter? How is that going to actually show up in our day-to-day life? So here's what's really cool. If we believe that God is the only thing going on, then that means that I must be God and you must be God and everything must be God, not God, that person, remember, but God, the concept, this idea of consciousness. And so when we begin to unpack this idea of oneness, when we're looking at one another in the eye, Mm, that's when it becomes really juicy, right? Because all of a sudden, we're required to go deeper, to step a little bit outside of our comfort zone, to look at the situations and circumstances in our lives and in our communal lives and society and even the planet and say, this too must be oneness because that's all that there is. And so once we take this perspective of oneness and we use it to expand our personal perspective of life, what happens is that we're able to kind of step back ever so slightly from this idea of right and wrong, this idea that decision was right, that decision was wrong, or that person is wrong, that person is right, or that belief system, whatever it is, all of a sudden, all of that just gets a little more murky and gray area. And I think that that's beautiful. I think that that is really one of the captivating aspects of our teaching. So if you remember on Sunday, if you were there, I talked about how the Tao Te Ching says that as soon as we've named that thing, the Tao or God or spirit, as soon as we've put a name to it, or as soon as we've described it, we can trust and know that it is not that it is something deeper and greater than anything we could possibly fathom. And so if we take that and we combine it with this idea that it's all one and we don't really know how to reconcile that with everything that we're seeing in the world, well, it just requires us to open just a little more and to soften just a little more and to have just a lot more compassion, right? And all of a sudden, what it does for me is it makes me move from this place of, well, I know not only what's right for my life, but I know what's right for your life as well. And to instead take one step back and say, I don't actually know much of anything. And I think that that's what's really cool is that the more that we learn and grow and deepen, the less that we know. And some beautiful paradox of knowing versus wisdom. Rumi says, out beyond the field of wrongdoing and right, or out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. And I think about that a lot. What if we were to set down all of our notions of what it means to be right and wrong and who's right and who's wrong and how that shows up? What if we set all of that down and we just showed up totally unmasked, completely authentic and vulnerable to one another? If we just looked each other in the eyes just a little bit more often and a little more deeply, and instead of approaching with judgment, we approached with this open understanding that what we are truly looking at is God in form, is spirit in form, is the actual idealized version of an individualized expression of that which is infinite standing in front of us. If we could actually show up to everything that is happening with that perspective, how would not only my individual life change, but how would that shift and change the collective? If all of a sudden everybody was viewed with God eyes as a God being, how would that change us? Hmm, that that is, I think, the question. So join me on Sunday and we will explore this deeper and hopefully look at each other with God eyes. I love you all.